Hello everybody, and welcome back to week 2 of my Japan ASMR vlog journey type deal. For this week, we'll be covering the second week of my journey. Last week, it was mainly in Akihabara as well as at Tanegashima, an island to the south of Japan, along with some other locations in between that, but you're gonna have to watch that other video if you want to know exactly what happened. As for this week, starting with day 8, I had just returned to Kagoshima from Tanegashima early in the morning, catching the first boat, the Toppy high-speed foil jet, from Tanegashima back to Kagoshima. I overestimated the time it would take for me to get there, so I ended up wandering around Kagoshima for a little bit before heading off to the Shinkansen to take a train up to Fukuoka. With that in mind, I had a little bit of time, so I traveled to a couple of locations. Or one really, but I passed through a few locations on the way. The main location being Shiroyama Observatory, which gives a great view of Mount Sakurajima to the south. Southeast, I believe. It was a very nice scenic journey, originally on my itinerary for the day I was supposed to be in Kagoshima, but I got sick that day, so I ended up going to Shiroyama Observatory as, as a way of making up for that lost day. Now, the hike for Shiroyama Observatory is hell, especially if you're carrying luggage, so if you ever feel like going up and getting a rather amazing view of the city and of Mount Sakurajima, just be prepared, bring some water, and treat it as a hike rather than a stroll. After heading to Shiroyama Observatory, I walked back down and made the 20-minute walk trek to Tenbonkan, which is kind of like a big shopping district street. And while there, I was able to get some local specialty donuts. It was interesting, a little bland for my taste, but I do notice that the Japanese sweets, they're not too sweet, which is like good for my parents, I suppose. After walking around Tenbonkan for about half an hour, I made my way back to Kagoshima Chuo Station, where the Shinkansen is. At that point, I was pretty tuckered out from walking all the way up and then back down Shiroyama Observatory, so I decided to say, screw it, I'm just gonna sit, eat some lunch, and wait for my bullet train to arrive. After that, it was a short 1-hour journey from Kagoshima to Fukuoka. I think it was around an hour and a half. And once I arrived there, I checked into my lodging, which gave me about the rest of the day to explore Fukuoka a bit. I arrived at around 11:30. So I was able to check out quite a few places in Fukuoka, actually. I was staying near the Tenjin area, which is a little bit of a ways away from the actual JR station. I got off at JR Hakata station, which is across the river. I was in Fukuoka. Fukuoka and Hakata, they're two cities that are very close together. You can walk to the other side within about 20 minutes. So I was staying near the Fukuoka side since there was, in my opinion, more things to do for me. There was yatai, which is like carts essentially. There's cart restaurants at night near Tenjin Station. It was a pretty chill day after I got all my luggage sorted and I was able to travel around. My first location I wanted to head to was Fukuoka Castle Ruins and that area as well. And that also included Ohori Park, which the Fukuoka Castle overlooks. So it was pretty cool, and it was basically walking in a massive park. Fukuoka is a pretty interesting place. It's a kind of like meeting hub for all types of foreigners and different cultures in the past. And I was able to explore it. They had a couple of free museums where you could see the history of the Fukuoka Castle and how it's essentially surrounded by a big moat of water, and you can actually walk along it. And they had a lot of historical artifacts dating back to when the castle still existed. And of course, it's castle ruins, so you get a lot of stone walls and whatnot. But you're still able to get quite a good view of Fukuoka itself and see the area around it. I don't know if you could see Hakata quite well since it's a little further to the east, but still, definitely worth the trip, and it's totally free as well. And because we're further west, it's not nearly as many tourists as you would find in somewhere like Osaka or Kyoto or Tokyo for that matter. After that, I climbed back down, and near Ohori Park, which is more or less connected to the ruins, it's only a short walk, there was an art museum. I didn't really feel like going in, so I kind of just walked around it. And around Ohori Park, which is essentially just a giant pond with trees around it, and it's a very good place to go for a stroll. Took one big lap around Ohori Park, and it was quite the scenic walk, if I do say so myself. There's a little kind of like pagoda in the middle, and there was a queue for taking pictures, so I just opted for one from the side. I'm not one to take selfies much either. After that, there was a Mr. Donut right by Ohori Park, so for the sake of Fukuoka, I got pondering. In my humble opinion, I think Mr. Donut is a little overrated. Maybe it's just from where I come from, but the donuts are not nearly as sweet, or not sweet enough, rather, in my opinion. But they have a lot of specialty donuts, and I even got this weird Diglett donut they had, a Pokemon collaboration. There's always collaborations. By the time I was done at Ohori Park, I made my way back to the Tenjin area, and it was at this point that all the yatai stalls started setting up. And the one I wanted to go to for the most was Chef Remy's, which is French food. And they're quite popular on YouTube. A lot of different channels have done videos on it. And it's essentially like an izakaya almost. You order one drink and you get some food. And you're supposed to chat with the locals, but I'm too shy, so I just opted to eat my food, which was a very tasty meal. I got a quiche and some oolong-cha, as well as the escargot, which I've had escargot before, but it was very good. They kind of taste like mushrooms to me. After that, I decided to explore the area, but since I was a little full, but was also eager to eat more in the evening, there was a Christmas market in the Tenjin area, and I decided to check that out, and I'll be honest, I didn't get anything because I was essentially paying the, standard kind of like festival prices that I would find back home, and I didn't feel like doing that, especially while on a budget abroad. But it was cool exploring the area. They had a bunch of performers up on stage, doing your usual Christmas songs, just really soaking up that Christmas vibe, They definitely played Mariah Carey, in which I lost my shit, because it's Mariah Carey and I can't escape her. But otherwise, it was your standard Christmas market, but it was approaching Christmas, and despite being abroad, I still wanted to get a little bit of that, Christmas energy into my spirit. So it was cool exploring it and, not feeling too homesick. After that, I went to a little bit of a walk over to Daimyo, which is like a district near the Tenjin area. That's about a 15-minute walk, I'd say, to Daimyo. And I went to U.S. Burger, which is run by a great American. He moved to Japan to make burgers. And it felt like being back in North America with the vibe. It was a very homely vibe and damn good burger. And honestly, eating that burger made me feel like I was back home, which was nice. So that ended the first day in Fukuoka. The next day I was had a pretty loose schedule. It was raining pretty badly, and I was a unprepared fool, so I ended up drenched. But I wanted to go to Imaya Hamburger, where it's an old grandpa just selling like a variety of hot dogs and different kind of like hot dog like sandwiches out of a little food truck inside a park. It was at Nishi Park. Unfortunately, I found out by the time I made it to the top of the park and was already thoroughly drenched that they weren't open that day, and I would have to go out of the park and over to the second location, which is inside the city. So that was tough. It was over in Ropponmatsu, but I resolved and made my walk. I did get a couple of cool photos of the park overlooking the bay, and also of the city itself, but the weather wasn't great. But I did take some pictures of the actual hamburger stand, and getting out of the rain, I crashed into McDonald's, and can I just say, I think East Asian McDonald's is, at least their apple pies are way better than what we have in North America, because they're still fried and not baked. But that's just my opinion. I made it to Imaya Hamburger and got two whole hot dogs, and it was very filling. I got their hot dog, well, I got two hot dogs, but one had the cheese and the other had egg, so they were pretty tasty. After that, I made the long trek all the way to Hakata, back across the river to the east and to the Hakata Port Tower, which was a free entry tower that was near kind of like the docks, if you will. And the weather wasn't great, so I opted not to go to the beach on Fukuoka side. But it was a cool little free landmark you could just check out, and it's a tower, so you can get a survey of the surrounding area. They have a little museum at the bottom that's also free entry, and you can just kind of check it out. And honestly, it was just good. Not very many tourists, so you can take your time and explore, and you get to see the port of Hakata. And after that, a short bus ride away was Canal City Hakata, which is a big mall, and it was really cool because essentially they have like a mini river running through the middle of the mall. On one side is a hotel, and then the other side is like your standard shopping mall, but you can overlook through multiple floors the river and all the people. There was an idol performance happening when I went, so it was nice being able to vibe while just kind of exploring. I didn't do much shopping, but they had their standard stores, your Shonen Jumps, your Ghibli stores. They had an Evangelion pop-up, but I was going to be back in Tokyo, so I opted to spare myself the luggage and just go to the Evangelion store in Ikebukuro when I got back. After that, I was just killing time until the yatai stalls and whatnot opened. I checked some temples around the Hakata area, and oddly enough, they were pretty empty, some of these shrines and temples I went to. So I was able to sit down, relax, take my time, and I was feeling a bit peckish, so I just popped into a restaurant, izakaya, that had a happy hour and got a couple of dumplings and just chowed down while I waited for the rain to let up a little bit. Eventually, I walked across from Hakata to Fukuoka, and you can see this is the bridge I walked across. Yeah, and it really is just one bridge connecting these two cities. Made it back to the Tenjin area and just had some food. Went around, had some cart ramen, which was good. And yeah, called it a day. For the next day, I now had to return from return to Tokyo from Fukuoka because I had a couple of plans that were pre-made, and it forced me to rush back. Mainly the going to Hakone because you need to pre-order your tickets, and they're a set day for that train, so I had to get back. I would have loved to stay in Fukuoka, and I'll definitely go again because Fukuoka is a really cool place with very good food, chill people, and it's definitely a different vibe than Tokyo for sure. But the next day, I got to the station early, had a bowl of ramen for breakfast, and took the train from Fukuoka all the way to Tokyo, which was about 5 hours. Originally, I was going to fly, but the times for landing and departing weren't exactly ideal. But yeah, I took the train, got a nice picture of Mount Fuji, which was nice. It wasn't super close, but it was you're never going to pass up an opportunity to take a picture of Fuji. And I arrived back in Tokyo, and I more or less just got dinner and crashed that day, since I would have to wake up rather early to head to Shinjuku Station and catch the romance car train over to Hakone. Speaking of Hakone, to get there, I got the romance car ticket, which is essentially a special car you can take that goes straight to Hakone. And you can also get a free pass with it, which, allows you to take all of the kind of trams and buses in the Hakone area, along with a tourist boat, which was pretty cool. It's about $50, $60, and gives you discounts for a couple of things in the Hakone area. The romance car ticket is a little confusing, though, because you have to buy the limited express ticket and then as well as the romance car pass. So make sure, if you're looking to travel to Hakone and you want to take the romance car, to double check your research. Firstly, I traveled to Gora Station via the cable car, which is close to the train station you get off at. It's a short walk away. The cable car, it was pretty cool. The Hakone free pass covered it. And you get a couple of cool shots of the area surrounding it, and you get to see where the hot spring water comes from. And I got some curry for breakfast at the advertised on their website, specialty curry at Owakudani Eki Shokudo. I took the Hakone ropeway from Sozan Station, which gets you up the top of the mountain, and you get some nice views. Had some curry. And this is the place where they sell the black eggs that have been essentially dunked in hot spring water, which turns them black. They're just regular eggs, a little salty as well, and they're pretty good, but you get 4 eggs for 500 yen, and I was one person, and I didn't feel like eating 4 hard-boiled eggs and stuffing myself, so I was able to ration it out for a couple of hours. After that, and exploring that area for a little bit, I went from Owakudani, taking the ropeway down to Togendai, which is close to the port. Oh, and of course, while at Owakudani, I got some cool pictures of Mount Fuji with the egg as well. Taking the cable car down, I got to Togendai Port, which is where the Hakone sightseeing cruise was. An interesting tidbit I realize now, because there was a lot of Evangelion merch, is that Hakone and Evangelion, they're pretty closely tied, since that's where it takes place apparently. So they had a dedicated Evangelion store and a lot of Evangelion related advertising as well. While there, I went to a small cafe, got a little dessert while I waited for the next cruise ship to arrive. They're alternate in about 20-minute intervals, so I sat down, had my dessert of I believe it was a chocolate lava cake with some ice cream, and I got on the cruise ship and sailed around Lake Ashi. The boat has 3 or 4 stops, and I got off at the last one, and it was fine. It was your regular cruise. The free pass paid for it, so I said, why the heck not? I was able to take a picture of one of those famous shrine that's like in the water. I got a picture of it from afar, but I was going to walk to it later as well, so I wasn't super eager to get an amazing picture on the boat. But taking the boat all the way to Motohakone Ko, the final stop of the tourist boat, I explored the area, and you get off there mainly just to go to the shrine. That is like all over Instagram or whatever. It was to go to Heiwa no Tori, which is a short walk away from Motohakone Ko. There was a massive queue to take pictures at the shrine, so I just opted for crappy pictures since I'm a lazy bum and didn't feel like lining up. But it was cool. There was a temple near the Torii Gate, so I explored that area as well. And of course, every place in Japan has to have their own anime mascot, so I took a very crappy picture of one. I walked around the area, saw a cool bridge, and then I was preparing to leave Hakone, or at least go to my final destination, and I got this weird kind of like 50 yen kind of like mini cake thing. It was fine. But I checked out the Evangelion store, which was cool. They had a life-size Rey figure. And after that, my final stop before heading back to Tokyo. This was a day trip after all. I took the boat. At this point, I had taken the train back from Moto Hakone-ko all the way back to the train station, Hakone Yumoto Station. That's where the Evangelion store is, and as well as my final stop for the day, Hakone Yuryo Onsen, which is a public bathhouse, but it's also a hot spring, an onsen. And you go there, you pay the entry fee, and you can just use it like a regular onsen. It was a public onsen, so it was a little awkward for the first 5 minutes or so, getting butt naked and, taking a shower and a bath with other people near you, but no one really cares, I'll be honest. You just kind of soak in the hot water for as much as you want, but make sure not to get too dizzy. You might pass out. But it was very relaxing on a chilly winter day. They even have a sauna there, which you can spend some time in. I didn't feel like cooking myself, but you can take the sauna and then dunk yourself in the cold water bath and then go back into the hot water and relax. And just outside in the changing rooms, they even sell milk, which is a little weird, but I'll be honest, nothing beats chugging a glass of chocolate milk after soaking in a onsen for 45 minutes. While there, Hakone Yuryo Onsen also has an attached restaurant where I was able to get some pretty tasty Japanese food. It was a set meal, and then I also added a sweet anko dessert as well, which was pretty tasty. And after that, I headed back to Tokyo, and honestly, Hakone was a pretty good day trip. Now you might be asking why I didn't stay overnight at a ryokan or something, and that's because of multiple reasons. One, they're very expensive and I was on a tight budget, and two, most of them were already booked out months in advance, and even looking at different ryokans 2 months in advance, nothing that was, reasonably priced, but also relatively high rated was available anymore. So I called it a day. I got some decent food that I would get at a ryokan anyway, and I got to try an onsen, and I was pretty content to head back to Tokyo. Heading back to Tokyo and calling it a night, it was officially Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, I was more or less content with just taking it easy and relaxing. So I more or less just explored Akihabara yet again, but also the surrounding area of Kanda and Ochanomizu, mainly because I was preparing for my main reason for coming to Japan, really, and that was Comiket, Winter Comiket. I was cosplaying as Solid Snake, or no, that is not Solid Snake. I was cosplaying as Naked Snake, and I needed to find a cardboard box so that I could use it as a decent prop for my costume. And I was able to find the equivalent of Staples, essentially, which sold a decently sized cardboard box, and I wasn't ready to buy it just yet since I had to head to a different hotel. I scouted ahead, figured out which size box I needed, how much it would cost, and ended with lunch at Moss Burger, and I got a rice bun burger at Moss Burger. It's not that good. It's not worth it. Just get a regular burger. The hype is not worth it. After that, I went back to Milish now that it's been a week, and just relaxed for a bit. Milish is nice. You can just sit down for 90 minutes and relax, order a drink, do your journaling or your computer prep, and that's exactly what I did. I got a parfait there and the Kurusatina drink. After that, I explored Tokyo for a bit. Went to Marunouchi and saw a weird Yoshi thing, and I ended my day in Kanda, which was pretty close to Akiba, and I went to Tobichi, which is the Hobonichi store. If you didn't know, Hobonichi is the company that Shigesato Itoi, the creator of the Mother and Earthbound series, he also owns Hobonichi, and they had several Mother-themed things, but I was resolved to get a Hobonichi Techo. Hobonichi, the brand, specializes in different kind of day planners, weekly planners, and yearly planners, and I was lucky enough to get the Mother 2 Hobonichi cousin planner, and that is a 1 year planner. And there's also individual days and weeks as well. And Unfortunately, they didn't have any English versions, but it's a day planner. I was able to maneuver around the Japanese version just fine. So even though it was sold out, I was able to, even though the English version was sold out, the Japanese was good enough for me. And I also got some goodies after buying the planner. I didn't take too many pictures except for the mother exhibit. But yeah, the Tobichi store is in some back alley of condos, so it was a little hard to find actually. After that, I headed back to Akiba, saw a tofu car, because it's a tofu car, I'm legally obligated to take a picture, and got dinner at Made Dreaming, another popular Akiba destination. It's one of the two big maid brands in Akiba, the other being At Home Cafe. I got a hamburg steak set for dinner, as well as a matcha latte or something. And oddly enough, the day I went, there was a graduation happening for one of the staff there, so I even got a pretty good performance out of it. Seating time is 60 minutes, but, it was enough to do your idle chants and whatnot. And it was good for my first time at Made Dreaming, and oddly enough, all the times I've been at home, there wasn't any performances, so being able to catch one at Made Dreaming was totally worth it, I think. For the next day, it was officially Christmas. Now, Christmas in Japan, it's more of a consumerist holiday, rather than it is spending time with your family like it is in North America, I think. It's mostly just couples, going out for dates, eating cake and KFC and whatnot. I was a solo, so that didn't really appeal to me. So instead, I decided to check out Nakano Broadway, which is essentially a big shopping mall in Nakano. Nakano is also the location of Anonymous Code, another Steins Gate, or Science Adventure series game. They don't really showcase Nakano there too much, Nakano Broadway slightly, but I've been to Nakano Broadway before, and it's like a kind of like Akihabara, but cheaper deals. It's also a lot of anime merch and just miscellaneous cosplay and pop culture stuff. There was also the Sun Mall I passed through. I didn't take too many pictures. Today was going to be a chill day, the Christmas. Afterwards, I headed to Shinjuku and went to the KFC from Jujutsu Kaisen. I got their specialty chicken, Christmas chicken. It wasn't very good. It was definitely overpriced. I passed by Kabukicho, the red light district in Shinjuku. It was the daytime, so it wasn't really dangerous or anything, but I did get approached by one guy asking me to go to get a massage or something. I declined because I didn't feel like getting robbed that day. Shinjuku, it's cool, but it's not particularly safe at night from what I've heard. Otherwise, I just opted not to, and I just wandered around Shinjuku and Shibuya. Afterwards, though, I went back to Akihabara, because that's where I was staying, essentially, and decided to check out Jam Akihabara, which is another maid cafe. It's recommended by a couple of VTubers, or one VTuber in particular, but it's good because it's a very chill place as well, similar to Milish. They don't do any performances or anything. It's a regular cafe where you can order your food, get a drink, and relax. For that day, I got the Christmas okonomiyaki, and on it says Merry Christmas. So I celebrated there, did some journaling, and chilled for a bit. Honestly, took it pretty easy that day. Not much to do really, especially if you're alone during Christmas. The next day was the 26th, and I decided to head over to Yokohama, because I wanted to go around the Yokohama Chinatown. While Yokohama, it's essentially like a smaller Tokyo, essentially. It's a little less touristy, and there's a couple of cool places like the brick warehouse, the red brick warehouse, which sells like all kind of like specialty goods from small shops, and also the aforementioned Yokohama Chinatown. It's a standard Chinatown. There's the Yokohama Tower, and there's a statue of Hosho Marin there. I forgot to go. But there's also the Cup Noodle Museum in Yokohama, which is also a pretty cool first-time tourist location you can go to. While in Chinatown, I got myself a meat bun because everyone hypes it up. It was okay. A little too doughy for my taste. And I got some mapo tofu for lunch. because I'm in Chinatown, I may as well get something Chinese for lunch. Afterwards, I walked over to the Motomachi shopping district. It's essentially just a big, like, kind of semi-luxury shopping district with all kinds of clothing brands. But the main reason I wanted to go there is because it is the shopping district that Canon 2006 is based off of. Canon 2006, one of the key Kyoto Animation animes, and one of my favorites. The shopping district they spend a lot of time at is based off of the Motomachi shopping street, so I wanted to go and take some pictures of the famous landmarks there. Afterwards, I passed through the Chinatown yet again to head back. I took a picture of the tower with Hoshomaring, but I didn't go in, and I'm not sure why I didn't. I now regret it. But I was able to check out the rose garden that was near the port of Yokohama. And you can see the tower in the corner there. It's a pretty big rose garden, actually. And it's essentially a mini park, if you will. Afterwards, I took a train to Fujisawa. It's close to Yokohama, but it's a little out of the way. There were a couple of locations I wanted to hit in the Yokohama Fujisawa area. The main place I wanted to go to in Fujisawa was the Yugo-yoji Temple. It's a Buddhist temple, and it is famous, at least to me, because it is the Ryudo Temple, or what it's based off of, in the Fate series, Fate Stay Night. And yeah, it was really cool seeing this iconic location in real life and seeing what it's based off of. The second reason why I was on this trip was to do a Fate series pilgrimage and heading to all the Fate locations I could in a reasonable manner. Ryudo Temple being one of them. So I was able to check it out. They were doing construction, so I wasn't able to get a perfect recreation of what you see in the game, but I did manage to take some pictures of the steps up to Ryudo Temple. Sadly, no Grand Assassin Kojiro to meet me today. Afterwards, I headed back to Fujisawa Station, where I took some shots of the area and tried to recreate the shot you see in Bunny Girl Senpai, which predominantly occurs in Fujisawa and a little bit of Yokohama. Lastly, I decided, since I was already in Fujisawa, to go head over to Enoshima Island. It's a man-made island close to Fujisawa. And it's a very nice place to go and, get a view of the land. And they have a very long staircase with like 200 plus steps, and it's a bit of a hike to get up, but it's a cool place to explore, but it's very touristy. Unfortunately, I messed up my timings, and I intended to go in the evening to see the Enoshima illumination, which they do during the winter time, where they have all the lights on, all these different lights. It's essentially a big light display, but I got there a little too early, and I didn't really feel like sticking around just to see the illuminations for like 10-15 minutes and then leaving with the rest of the tourist crowd. So I walked around the island a bit and then headed back down to do a stroll along Shichirigahama Beach. Shichirigahama Beach is the main beach featured in the Bunny Girl Senpai series, and it was very beautiful walking along the beach during the sunset, as corny as that sounds. And, playing the OST from the anime and just walking along it, it was really relaxing and a good way to debrief during that day. And as a kind of spur of the moment thing, since I was already at Shichirigahama and it was only a couple of stations away to Kanagawa, I was like, or Kamakura rather, I realized, hey, why don't I go check out the big Buddha it's on the way back home in Kamakura, so I may as well try for it. So I took the train over to Kamakura, and I was able to get in just before they closed, and I was able to get some shots of the big Buddha in Kamakura. It's a popular Buddhist destination. It's really not much to see. It's 300 yen to get in, and it's just a big Buddha. But it was cool seeing something so big, and seeing it survive for hundreds of years and being repaired as such. But I didn't stay for too long since they were closing up. So after that, I did my once around, and I headed back to Akihabara. for dinner that day, I decided to get some shawarmas because I was craving something that wasn't Japanese. I got some shawarma kebab, and it reminded me of home because it's like the reasonably priced food back home. After that, for the evening, I decided to go to Mogra, which is a nightclub, essentially, but it is a anime-centric one, where they play anime music and all kinds of different pop culture songs, Vocaloid and such. It's opened by the same company that opened Deer Stage, and it was pretty cool. It's the same entry fee, 1,000 yen for a drink, and yeah, it was good vibes. They have different events that every night. The night I went, they were doing anime oldies, so only songs from animes older than 2012. It was a good vibe. But yeah, that is what concluded my second week in Japan. It was pretty chill, but I had to mentally prepare for the next week because it was going to be quite stressful. Spending time on the west side of Japan was really fun, and I do regret not spending more time there, but the main reason for coming to this trip was rapidly approaching. So join me the next time I upload for the third week of my Japan journey. Thank you for listening, and good morning, good evening, good night.